For there is no authority except from God, and the authority that exists are appointed by God. So why so many evil leaders if God is in charge? Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, Saddam Hussein. There's a horrific list of leaders guilty of abusing their power. You would think a good God would choose good leaders. There are plenty of strong statements affirming God's sovereignty over human authority in the Bible. Jesus answers, "You will have no power over me if it were not given to you from above." He removes kings and sets up kings. The Most High has power over human kingdoms. He gives them to whomever he wishes. So why so many evil leaders if God is in charge? This is a tough question, and the answer usually follows two paths of logic. A common answer is that God uses bad leaders to punish or judge nations that have been behaving poorly. Think ancient Israel and Babylon. The second approach involves God using bad leaders to bring about a greater good. In other words, humans only see the immediately bad situation, but God sees a larger, long-term picture that ultimately works out for our good and His glory. Think Samson's poor leadership and the eventual destruction of Israel's Philistine foes. However, these two answers to why bad leaders exist in a world controlled by God often leave us unsatisfied and a little uncomfortable with the idea that God is actually love. God also uses difficult circumstances to test or challenge people in order to make their devotion, faith, and character stronger, such as when God allowed the Canaanites to remain in Israel when the Hebrews returned to the Promised Land. We also need to consider human choice, or free will, and that just because God controls who is king, president, or ruler of the country doesn't mean He approves of them or wants them to lead. God gives us a choice. We can either choose to follow Him or turn away from Him. With free will, God gives us the ability to make a choice as either individuals or as a collective people or nation. Our freedom of choice has resulted in some horrible leaders over the years. This doesn't mean God agrees with our choice, but He allows for humanity to choose its leaders, even when He knows it's not in our best interest. Consider King Saul, who, despite being Israel's first anointed king, spiraled into a jealous man, obsessed with keeping his power and killing his successor. In the end, God always works with our flawed choices for His glory and our ultimate redemption. God didn't choose for humanity to sin in the Garden of Eden. That was never His plan. But God worked with our sinful choices and ultimately gave us a King and Savior in Jesus Christ to rectify our wrongs. How do you reconcile the idea that God controls the world's rulers, but evil rulers still exist?